Okay, so I was actually going to try to figure out what I was going to do with this B-roll. And the affirmative action case results or whatever came out. I'll post a couple links if you want to understand it, but I just want to talk about kind of why, just really my thoughts about the case. Okay, so firstly, if you don't know what affirmative action is, it's basically this policy that tried to remedy some of the lasting impacts of segregation, Jim Crow, and slavery. And it gave like race based preferential treatment to black people. Now, this was necessary because, the Jim Crow laws were pretty bad. Like, it literally made it illegal. Like, it was illegal in America for black people to read and write. Like, those were laws in America from slavery. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And so, like, in order to like literally just integrate black, there's a certain part of like socialization that happens. I've made other videos about like racial socialization, about like matriculation, about being a community member. Like, it's not just, you don't just like going to college to like study a major. You're also like going to college to like understand like how things work now, like how society works. I think it's really interesting, and maybe I'll make a longer video about this to unpack the educational experiences of people like Issa Rae and Jadena versus maybe like mine. Um, like, in for a lot of middle class black people, and middle class black people exist all over the world. Like, not all black people are poor. There are a lot of poor black people, but not all black people are poor. So we'd have to start there. And so, like, the point of going to college is to kind of like master some set of skills, or to gain a set of skills so that you can be like employable in society, and thus like get a job that will enable you to contribute to society. Now, having things like a schedule, a routine, consistency, over time, that's something that like really school like K through 12 should teach you. But for some reason, for a lot of people, it doesn't actually teach them that, which is very, very strange. So some people have to, I don't actually know how they gain that. I think that's a very large issue in the black community, where people are, how do you say, like, people are like so many sporadic and random things there. It's all really a part of counterculture, but it's basically like these facets of counterculture are pushing people to have these like very strange experiences, where like no day really is the same, because there's a bunch of bullshit that keeps happening. And usually with like poverty and drugs and a lack of family and all that shit, then yeah, there's a lot of, it's really other people, which is another reason I will just continue to encourage people to, like, if you haven't lived alone yet, please live alone. There's like some real benefits that like come with that will enable you to like grow in these great ways, where you can like explore yourself, you can explore society, like you can explore parts of life that you might not be able to do if you're in traditional spaces with like the family that you grew up with, or your community or something. And you kind of need to do that to become autonomous and to become an individual. That's like why a lot of people go away to college, and then they grow and learn, and hopefully get into a healthy relationship with someone else, and then maybe they could have kids and get married and things like that. Like, that's the purpose of that. And also, that's not like a racialized thing. Like, it's kind of really important for like a large percentage of Americans to do that. Now, here's what I will say. Like, I don't know if it's like this controversial or even this like masked experience at this time. Like we did have to have TV shows like A Different World or The Cosby Show that maybe dove into like the middle class experience of like going to college, graduating from college, like getting a job. And then we had things like Living Single, Sex in the City, other things that explored maybe like after college. And now we even have like so Jada Pinkett Smith and Kerry Washington and Gabrielle Union, they're all like writing these like memoir books, which I'm actually really excited to unpack. That are talking about their own lived experiences. And so now we're really getting to explore like adulthood. More people are talking. We got mom too. People are talking about mothering channels. So we have like options for things, right? And I just feel like we, in terms of affirmative action, it's actually not really like necessary at this point. It hasn't been for a while. But I do feel bad because there's always going to be like this really large group of like Black Americans who just, and it's happening with a lot of immigrant communities as well. They just never figure it out. And the thing is, like, as we move forward in society, things get more and more competitive. So like what it took to maybe like get into the University of California 10 years ago is not the same thing that is required to get into the University of California now. Just because like time has gone on, people have changed, like things are different. You can sit here and believe that things are not different, but the fact is things are different. Things are actually different. They're not the same. People have grown. People have changed. Like, getting into college is harder. And I really do think that college is a pretty important social experience. But I also do want to say this, like, places like Harvard don't actually need affirmative action. And also, one thing I think that a lot of people are under this, or they believe in this idea that without affirmative action, more like white and Asian kids are going to get in. That there was this large population of like Black students who were taking up the spots. Spots at places like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, they're really coveted spots because the educational experience that you get there is actually really, really good. If you're interested in having an academic experience, I don't actually know if there's one that's better. But the thing is, like, so even without affirmative action, though, like Harvard is not going to ever go back to being a place where just like really rich white people or even like really rich Asian people or whatever the population of people who has the most resources, it's never going back to a place where, because it was like this before, where that happens. And so the thing about especially like Asians in America, they have like prioritized over everything else academic success and this idea that like being in the middle class is all that matters. It's kind of this idea of like the model minority and all these things. Like, why are their families succeeding? Like, why are they succeeding? Well, when you come from like an extreme dictatorship like China and you actually understand really like how much onus they are placing on academic merit, it's kind of like ridiculous because in terms of like, how do you say this? Like, lifestyles, if you look at like the lifestyles of people in places like Spain or Italy, like people are living much better lives than they are in a place like China, even though in China, in terms of like productivity and all of these things, like people are way more productive in China, but they're not like really living better, right? And in terms of like living the best, I think maybe America, I would say that like the Nepo babies in America are living the best life. Or maybe the children of upper middle class people who are like having fun employment periods of time and who are able to like capitalize off of things like internships and like, just kind of be lifelong students. It's actually pretty great. I've got to say it's great. It's great. If you can do that, it's great. But Like Harvard actually needs to be a place where like the best of the best go. And that doesn't just mean that you have good grades. It also doesn't really mean that you just do like community service, because if you go to a school like what am I thinking of? There's like a couple of like some of those schools that like I'll put the video about like Kerry Washington and Gwyneth Paltrow. Like if you go to any of those schools that are mentioned like in that article, those really elite private schools in New York, you already have so much access and so much privilege. So like admissions officers know that. And so it's not like they're just going to admit every single person from like that particular school to get in. Like they have to have other people come. I'll finish this later.